architecture of Informatica and how the architecture, what are the different client tools. Yeah, who is actually logged in from 123 trainings? Yeah, somebody ping me. Who is that? Who logged in as 123 trainings? I'm not sure. Who is it? Okay. Okay, Asif. Yeah. You're talking about the weekend class, right? Yeah. If the participants are comfortable, then we can do it, and we can do it on the weekends. Friday, anyway, we are doing it. And I mean, Friday means that is US Friday. Okay, US Friday, we do not have a class. So I'm comfortable to take the classes even over the weekends around the same timing. And if you are available, so please just drop a note. Then we can continue the classes. If you are not available, I mean, if the participants are not available, then we can just I mean, we can have only on the weekends, because already we have made the schedule as 1.5 hour a day. So hopefully we should be able to complete it by this end of the month, and we will see that, I mean, how we'll progress on that. Okay, so but let us know. I mean, maybe I think Friday night we can have a class, but if not on Saturday night, that is your Saturday night, right? So yeah, India Saturday, US Friday. Yes. So I think yes. So to make it clear, and except the Saturday, yes, Friday there will be a class, and except the Saturday night, EST or CST or whatever, except the Saturday night, every other day we'll have a class. So that's fine, Asif. Except the Saturday night, yeah. So okay. Yeah, weekends in the sense, that is what. So again, there should not be any confusion as such. So except the Saturday EST and CST evenings, every other day we'll have a class. So forget about the weekend or whatever. We'll have a class on the every day except the Saturday evening. Okay. Yeah, I think everyone. Yeah. Again. Yes. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, let me just put it in this way. So Sunday, every day, 8:30 p.m. EST. I don't know. I think few of you are on the CST. So for them, it will be 7:30. I think 7:30 p.m. CST. Okay. So I'm putting the details on my screen. So every other day we'll have a class. So I mean, every day we'll have a class. So Sunday, and you have it whether if you belongs to CST or EST, from Monday till Friday we'll have a class like this. Friday, so 8:30 p.m. EST and 7:30 p.m. CST. Is that clear to everyone? There will be no class on Saturday. There will be no class on Saturday. No class on Saturday. So from now on, we'll follow the schedule something like this. No class on Saturday, 8:30 p.m. EST or CST. There is no class. Right? So I hope this is clear, and there is no class on Saturday. Yeah. Malik, I didn't get you. I don't know. Roger, who is Roger? Okay. So this is what the schedule is about.
So you all keep it for 1 hour or an hour and a half?
It's an hour and a half. We'll take it for hour and a half a day. I mean, every day hour and a half will be the class. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions regarding the schedule, please? So let's step into the actual content. Okay. Thank you then. So I hope this is clear to everyone. Okay. So to start with now to the actual development process. So what do you do when you join the real-time project, and what you are going to do when you join a project? So to understand the things. So the first, we already understood that there are four client tools called as a Powercenter repository manager, Powercenter repository manager, and Powercenter designer. So Powercenter designer. So let's try and understand what is the use of each and every client tool, how we are going to use that in the real time, So workflow manager, and the next one is the workflow monitor. So how do we use them, and what is the use of each and every tool? So as a developer, you're going to use only these things. So whatever the things that we have discussed yesterday, it was just for your information, how to create them and how to use them. So nobody will ask you to create the repository service. Nobody will ask you to create the integration service in the real time. So that is the job of an Informatica administrator. Informatica administrator will create all those things. And when you go to the real time, so they will provide you all these details in order to start with the work. So the first thing is the Informatica domain. What is the Informatica domain name? And which repository you have to work. So they are also going to tell you which repository you have to work. That means where you have to create all the programs, and the host. What is the host? Host in the sense node, where the Informatica is installed. That is the server IP or server domain name, and port. What is the port that they are using? I mean, which port the Informatica is running. So all these details will be provided. Yeah, Srinivas, you can just mute yourself if you don't mind. So next thing is about the Informatica domain name, repository, host, and then the port. Along with this, they'll also provide you the username and password. To log into the Informatica. They'll also provide you the username and password. So based upon all these details, you start with your work. So here, how to identify? So how are you going to use a domain name? How are you going to use a repository name and all those things to do that? So in order to understand the domain, this is my domain name. So the domain name will be provided to you by the your Informatica administrator. So I'm just logging in again to the Informatica administrator screen. This is a web-based console, as we have seen. This is the place that where we have created all the repository service and the integration service and everything. So they'll provide you the domain name. So this is my domain name. So let me just list my domain name. So domain underscore. This is what my domain. And what is a repository? So let's say I am working in the repository called as a infodemo. So yesterday, whatever the repository that we have created, I'm just using the same repository as is infodemo. What is the host name? Host name can be identified from here. So this is my host name. Host name is nothing but the PC name or the server name where it is running. So this is the host name, and the port, if you see, this is the 6005. So host name is this, and the port is 6005. So Informatica username and password. So in order to practice yourself on the remote box, so we will give you one username and password where you can access, and then where you can access and then do it. For me now to access it on my system, I'm going to use administrator as a username. So to access this, we'll provide you all these details. What is the username, password that you have to use, and which folder you can use to create all the programs, which folder you can use to create all the programs, all these things which will be provided to you when you start with a hands-on. So these are all the details that they'll provide you to understand it. What is the folder and where you can see this folder, that we will understand. So first thing is to understand about the PowerCenter Repository Manager. So what is the use of PowerCenter Repository Manager? So the PowerCenter Repository Manager is used to first first you have to configure the repository. So what is the configuration of repository? Means how you're going to work with the repository. First you have to configure that. So this is the job of a developer. I mean, you have to configure the repository in the repository manager. And the second thing is that how to create the folder, assign the folders to the how to assign the privileges on the folders to the different users. So what is a folder? Create the folders, modify, assign the privileges, assign the privileges or the permissions to the different users. So what is a folder? And the use of repository manager is also that it is also used to migrate the code from one environment to the other environment, migrate the code from one repository to the other repository. We all know that in the SDLC lifecycle you'll have different environments. So if you're working in the dev environment, in order to migrate the code from dev repository to the UAT repository, we are going to migrate the code from one repository to the other repository, that is from dev repository to the UAT repository or the prod repository. We are going to use a PowerCenter Repository Manager. So these are all the high level uses about the PowerCenter Repository Manager. So now we will see how to configure the repository, using PowerCenter Repository Manager. So let me just close this and then reopen it again. So you can follow the steps how we are actually accessing the repository manager. So you can go here, all programs, and Informatica is already installed. Our assumption is that Informatica is already installed. Go to Informatica 9.0.1 client. Under the PowerCenter client, you have the tool called as a PowerCenter Repository Manager. So just click on that. It will open up your PowerCenter Repository Manager window. PowerCenter Repository Manager. And here we are going to configure the repository. So when you log in, you won't see the repository something like this in your repository manager. It will appear something like this. So how to configure? So to configure, you have to go to the repository, configure domains. Let's say you don't have anything here. You are configuring it in a fresh. So you don't have anything. How to configure? Go to the domain. So you just need to click on this, add a new domain. So what is the domain name? This is your domain name. So just copy this. And what is the host name? Host name is the same. So this is the host name. That is the host name I'm just going to use. What is the port? 6005. So once you enter the domain details, after adding the domain, once you enter the domain details, when you click on OK, it will give you the list of repositories available under this domain. One domain can consist of multiple services. That means multiple repository services, multiple integration services can be there. So when you click on OK, it will give you the list of repositories which are available. So let's say I want to configure only the info demo and info. I want to configure only this. I don't want this repository because I'm not going to use it. So once you select these checkboxes and then click on OK, all the repositories will appear over here. So let's say this is the newly created repository which we have seen yesterday. So in order to log in, double click on this, then you can enter the username and password what is being provided to you. So if the repository is brand new, that means there is nothing which is available in that repository. You won't find anything. It will appear something like this. Okay, let it open. So it will appear something like this. Nothing is there. You don't have any folders, anything, nothing is available. So this is how you can configure the repository. So in order to configure the repository, you need to know the domain name, repository name, host name, and then the port name. So all these things, once you know whatever the repository that you want to configure, now I have configured the repository. So that is how you need to configure. So once you configure the repositories, same repositories will appear over here. I mean, same repositories will appear even in the other client tools. So whatever you have, the other client tools, right? So that is your workflow manager, workflow monitor, and all those things. So same repositories will appear. I'm just closing it and then opening it again to show you, because it is already open for other batch just before some time. I'm just closing this. So the same number of repositories will appear over here in all the windows. Okay, we'll see that. Before even going to that, now we are going to talk about how to create the folders. First of all, what is a folder? What is a folder? So in Informatica, the development of mappings, workflows, and all those things will be development of all those things will be categorized according to the folders. That means, let's say we know that data warehouse will consist of different subject areas. So let's say we are creating all the sales related programs in one folder, marketing related programs in one folder, all the finance related programs in other folder. So the data, development in Informatica is categorized according to the folder. It is just like a group, or you can call it as a package. So the group of programs you're keeping it into a single place, that is called as a folder. So inside the folder you can create all the programs whatever you want. And in Informatica, folders are of two types. One is a private folder, another is a public folder. Private and public. So private means the programs which are created in that folder cannot be used by any other folder in the repository. Public means if you are creating a program, that is a global one. That is a global. Anybody can, you can make reuse of the programs. You can make reuse of the programs. Private programs means no shortcut allowed. No shortcut. What is a shortcut? We will discuss that. No shortcut allowed. Public means shortcut is allowed for the programs. Shortcut is allowed. So how to create the program? How to create the repository? How to create the folder? So how to create it? Go here, folder. So go on to the top folder, click on create. Here you can enter the name of the folder. So let's say I want to create a folder called as a ODS_sales, which means all the ODS related workflows, all the ODS sales related workflows, I want to keep it into this folder. And you can enter the description. So this is just for demonstration. So you're just using, this is just for a demo and I'm just using it. So if you'd like to make this option, if you're just selecting this as allow shortcut, that means it becomes a public folder. If you're not selecting this becomes a private folder. That's it. So let's say I'm selecting this option, allow shortcut. That means I'm keeping the folder status as active. And if you want to assign the permission to the different users, you can assign the different permission to the different users. Suppose let's say for everyone I want to give them the read, write, execute permission. That means all the programs whichever is available in this folder, they can read, they can write, they can execute. They can read, they can write, and they can execute. So you can also restrict it to the different users, to the different groups. Whenever you want to make, I want to give them only the read access, so you can make it. If you want to give them only the execute access, you can make it. So that's up to you. So when you're providing the permission, for everyone I want to give them the read, write, execute, or I want to give them only the read and execute, but they cannot write the permission. So you can give all those permission on a particular folder to the user. So let's say you don't have a permission on the folder in the real time, you can't access. If you have a permission only, then only you can access it. So the main thing about the folder and then properties is that, so allow the shortcut, which becomes a public. So now once you create it, see here the folder is being added, but Nothing is being there. You won't find anything. It's just a dummy. You've not created any program. So this is how. So the public folder means you'll have a hand symbol here. You'll have a hand symbol. That it means shade one. So how to create the normal folder? It is just the same approach. So go here, click on create, and you want to create a new thing. Let's say I want to create a one more folder called as a EDW sales. And this time I don't want to select the shortcut. I want to make a private folder. This is a private folder, which means I don't want to make all the programs as a public. I want to keep them as a private. I don't want anyone to reuse it. I don't want anyone to reuse it. This is just a private folder. So if you want to create such kind of a thing, you can just select this is a private folder and then click on OK. Now you have ODS sales and EDW sales. Both the two folders have been created. So once you create the folder, same folder structure will be created across all the client tools. Same folder structure you'll see across all the client tools. So yesterday we talked about Informatica is a single sign-on, which means you can log into one tool and then can access all the other thing by default. So just click on this. It will directly open up the designer without asking for a credentials. So it will directly log into that. See now, I have not created any folders in the designer, but I've got same folder structure which is available here. So you can log in from here also. Suppose let's say you want to log into the where did you see that? Yes, I had like where did you see that blue? Syed, can you go ahead? I mean, can you elaborate your question? Yeah.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so the new folder that we created, that is created as yellow, but the other folder that is deployment group, that is blue. Is that, why is it like that? Is there a difference?
No, the deployment group is a different one. So we'll come back to that. That is a deployment group. This is not a folder. You can consider it as. This is the one which I have not created this. I mean, this has come by default whenever we seen this. So this deployment groups is used for a migration. We talked about just before some time. We talked about the migration, right? So how to migrate the data from programs from one repository to the other repository. So these deployment groups will be used, but this we cannot just consider it as a folder. This is something that which by default it will be created, these deployment groups. Okay, so we'll see that how the deployment group is being used. Okay, so this is how the folders are being used, and you can log into all the other folders, and same folder structure will be appear across all the other things. So that is the high level use of your repository manager. So we'll see how to migrate the code from one repository to the other repository. How to migrate the code from one repository to the other repository. Now the next thing is to understand about the designer. So what is the use of designer and how we are going to use the designer? So we understand that Informatica is an ETL tool which will extract the data from sources, different sources like a flat files and the relational tables, and then it will load the data into targets or whatever the target. It can be a relational table or it can be a flat file or anything. It will load the data. So now let's try and understand about what are the uses of designer. So what do you do by using the designer? So the designer, using the designer, you can create the sources, you can import the sources, all those things can be done. So first of all, how to log into the designer. So to log into the designer, you can go to the traditional approach, go to all programs, Informatica 9.0.1, and then the client tool and the Powercenter client. You have something called as a Powercenter designer, Powercenter designer. So now Powercenter designer, once you log in, see here, I have not configured any repositories. Already the repositories are appearing. I have not done that. So once you configure the repositories in the repository manager, you can access it. So to log into this, to log into the repository, how to do that? Double click on the repository, double click on the repository, and then enter the username and password what is being provided to you. So now if you see, all the folders are appearing. So the same folder structure is being appearing here. So to just log into this, right click on this, click on open. So I want to log into the folder ODS_sales, or if you want to log into the EDW sales, so whatever the folder that you would like to log in, right click on it, click on open. So once you click on open, this is called as a workspace where you can create the programs and all those things. This is called as a navigator window, and this is an output window. That means whenever you are saving the program or whenever you are compiling the program, it will show the status here saying that whether your program is valid or not. All those things will be shown up here. And this is the navigator window. That means all the programs, whatever you have created, will appear over here. So you have a lot of things: sources, targets, transformations, maplets, mappings, user-defined functions, and everything. So many things are available. We'll talk one by one in detail. So the PowerCenter Designer will consist of totally 4 tabs or 5 tabs totally. One is called as a source analyzer. Another is called as a target designer. Next thing is called as a transformation developer. Other one is called as a maplet designer and the mapping designer. So what is the use of each and everything? What is the use of each and everything? So we have total 5 tabs in the designer. So the first thing is about the source analyzer. What is the use of source analyzer? What is the use of source analyzer? So whenever you want to read the data from any source, whenever you want to read the data from any source, so whenever you want to create or import the source definition, whenever you want to create or import the source definition, then we'll use a source analyzer. When you say source definition, that is nothing but the structure of the table or the structure of the flag file. Your source can be anything. Your source can be anything. So your Informatica can read the data from relational table. It can read the data from flag file. It can read the data from XML file. It can read the data from legacy systems like your PeopleSoft, Salesforce.com, and everything. So your source can be anything. So whenever you want to import a relational table, or whenever you want to import a flag file, whenever you want to import an XML file, all the time, or import or create the definition. So whenever you want to import the definition or create the definition of relational table, flag file, XML file, whatever the source that you would like to read the data from, you have to use a source analyzer. So if you go to the source analyzer, on the top, you have few other things: import from database, import from file, import from COBOL file, import from XML definition, import from PeopleSoft, all these things, import from Salesforce.com, if you want to create all these options. So source analyzer is used to import the source definition from which you want to read the data, Let's say you want to read the data from Oracle table, which is available in the Oracle database, then we are going to use this option, import from database. If you want to import from read the data from the file, then you are going to use this option, import from file. So the source analyzer is used to create or import the source definition. Either it can be a relational table, flag file, or an XML file, or anything. So the next thing is about the target designer. So what is the use of target designer? So ultimately, your whenever you create an ETL program, your ETL program will extract the data from source and then load the data into the target. So target can be anything again. So it can be a relational table, or it can be a flag file, or it can be a XML file, or it can be a PeopleSoft, or anything. So whenever you want to create a target definition or import the target definition, then we are going to use import the target definition, then we are going to use a target designer. So your target can be anything. It can be a relational table, or it can be a flag file, or it can be an XML file, or anything that can be a target designer. So whenever you want to create a source definition, target definition, then we'll use a source analyzer and the target designer. So the next thing is about the transformation developer. So we are going to use a transformation developer. So transformation developer is used to, so we know that it will extract the data and it will transform the data. So how to transform the data with the help of different transformation. So whenever you want to create a reusable transformation, transformation is nothing but the task or the future in Informatica which will transform the data. So transformation includes like whenever you want to transform the data from lowercase to the uppercase, or whenever you want to convert the date from character to the date data type, or whenever you want to aggregate the data or group the data, calculate the average values, maximum values, all these kind of a transformation. So whenever you want to create a reusable transformations, then we will use it. So you'll have a different transformations. You have a different transformations like expression transformation. We'll see one by one in the next classes. Expression transformation, filter transformation, and so many other transformations are available. So we are going to see what is the use of each and every transformation. How do we create them? How do we create them? Transformation developer. So the next thing is about the Maplet designer. So Maplet is again one more Informatica object which allows you the reusability. So it's a group of reusable transformations is called as a Maplet. So we are going to see the different examples. What is the Maplet and how the Maplet is being used in the real time. So this is just a terminology that we are talking about here, and we are going to see each and everything, how to create it and how to use them. So the next thing is about the mapping designer. So Maplet designer, you'll create the Maplets. So you'll create the Maplets using the Maplet designer. So the next thing is about the mapping designer. So mapping is an Informatica object. Which will consist of source, target, and the group of transformations. Mapping is an Informatica object which will consist of, it's a GUI definition. It's a definition about the flow of the data, how the data flows from source to the target with the different transformations. Mapping is an Informatica object which will consist of source, target, and different transformations to transform the data. So it must contain a source, it must contain a target with a set of transformations. So the mapping designer is used to create the mappings. So you're going to create the mappings using the mapping designer. So this is how we'll use all these 5 client tools, 5 tabs which is available in the designer. So one is used to create the sources, another is create the target, another is used to create the transformation developer, Maplet designer, and the mapping designer. So that is how you're going to use the designer process. So the next thing is to understand about the workflow manager. So now you have created a program. Let's say mapping is a program. Mapping is a simple program. You have created a program. How to execute the program? So you are going to execute the programs that you have created using the workflow manager. So you are going to execute that using the workflow manager. So how to understand the workflow manager? So to log into the workflow manager, go here, all programs, Informatica 9.0.1 client, under the Powercenter client, So you have workflow manager. So just click on that workflow manager. It will open up the workflow manager tab. So the workflow manager will consist of 3 tabs. So first thing is about the task developer. And the next thing is about the worklet designer. What is a worklet designer? And the other one is about the workflow designer. So what is a task? So all these things we will see. So when you log into when you open the workflow manager, it will appear something like this. In order to log in, double click on this and then enter the username and password, whatever is being provided. So and then click on OK. So now you want to log into some other folder. Let's say you want to log into the folder, right click on it and click on open. Now you have all the this thing appear over here. This is called as a task developer, worklet designer, and the workflow designer. So these are all the 3 tabs. So what do you do with a task developer? So the task developer is used to create the sessions, email task, and the command task. Sessions, email task, and the command task. Email. Suppose, let's say you want to send an email whenever the load is being done and whenever the job is being completed. Then you can use it. So what is the use of task developer? Task developer is used to create the sessions, emails, and the command task. What is the use of session? Session is something that which invokes the mapping or which executes the mapping. Session is something with the help of an integration service. So yesterday we understand that integration service will move the data from source to the target. So session is something that which executes the mapping or which invokes the mapping, which executes the mapping with the help of integration service. With the help of integration service, it will execute the mapping. So the next thing is about the workload designer. We'll talk about the other things. I mean, email task and the command task later classes. So and the workload designer, whenever you want to keep the reusable group of sessions, reusable group of tasks is called as a workload. So I want to keep a group of reusable tasks, that is called as a workload. So workload designer is used to create the worklets. How we can use them, create the worklets. And the next thing is about the workflow designer. So what is the use of workflow designer? Workflow designer can consist of a group of tasks. It is like you can call it as a package. Which will consist of different methods. So in the same way, a workflow designer is something that which will consist of it represents the flow of execution of different tasks. It represents the flow of execution of different tasks which are available. So it is an Informatica object. Which consists of different tasks. So we'll see what kind of task it can be used, or you can call it as in simple terms, you can call it as a package of task. So that is how the workflow designer which will be used. And now you have designed all the workflows and you have executed the workflows. So how to verify whether the workflow is successfully completed or not, whether workflow is having an error, and how many records it has extracted from the source, and how many are loaded, how many are rejected by the Informatica. All those things can be done by using the workflow monitor. So workflow monitor is something that where you can use that to verify the results. You can use that to verify the results and verify the statistics to check whether the workflow is success or failure, whether it is successfully completed or it is a failure thing, success or failure, and how the statistics are there, and all those things can be verified by using the workflow monitor. So in order to verify, so let's say I want to log into the workflow monitor. You can log in from here, or you can also log in from here, anyway. So let's say I want to log into the workflow monitor, and the workflow monitor will give you the statistics, whether the workflow is successfully completed or not, and it will give you how many rows have been extracted. Let's say I'm logging in here. So here we do not have any workflow which is being created yet. So you won't find anything. So this is the integration service which we have just created. So nothing, no workflow is being there. From here you can verify whether the workflow is successful or failure, or whether it has loaded the data, or how many records it has extracted. All those things can be verified from the workflow monitor. All those things results can be verified from the workflow monitor. That is how you're going to use all these different tools. To understand the Informatica program. So you're going to use one by one by using all these details, right? So any questions so far, please? Yes, go ahead, Syed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so the source and the target, do they have to be the same type?
No, not required, not really. I mean, you can extract from relational table and then populate into the flat file. You can extract the data from the relational table which is available in the SQL server and then populate into the relational table which is available in the Oracle. Anything is possible.
Okay.
So your source can be anything and your target can be anything. Your Informatica is just a middleware tool which extracts the data from any kind of a source, transform the data, and can load the data into any kind of a source.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So need not to be on the same site. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, I just want to ask. This is the flow you have to follow, right? Repository, and then you go to the designer, then you go to the workflow manager, and then the monitor, right?
Yes. So we have to, whenever you're actually designing a program, you're going to make use of all these options in designing the program. That is your designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. And whatever the activities that you're doing, right? So for the creation of folder, for configuring of the repository, all these things, this is just a one-time activity. I mean, any one developer can create the folder or something and all the others can reuse it. Or even your Informatica administrator might create the folders for you and then they might give you the folder structure and then ask you to work on the same folder. It also happens. So
what's the use of the folder?
Yeah, so you can categorize your programs. Let's say I'm building, when I'm building my data warehouse will consist of different subject areas. So if you're clubbing all the programs into a single workspace, or which you can call it as a workspace, on single workspace, it is very hard for me to determine which workflow I have actually designed or which program I have designed for what subject area. If I divide them or if I categorize them according to the folder, I can easily determine all the sales related folders. I mean sales related programs, I have it here. All the EDW related things, I have it here. So I'm categorizing my program so that I can easily manage them. So that's the reason we are actually following the folder structure, and according to the folder, you're going to organize your programs, whatever you design. Yes, Brian?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, Karthik, Srini here.
Yeah, go ahead, Srini.
Karthik, in source, if I have a character or alphanumeric field, and in target I have an integer or decimal field, can I load them?
No.
Or do I need to modify that?
Yes, you need to convert it. You need to convert it and then load it. In order to convert that, you need to make use of the functions which are available. Suppose, let's say you have a source field which is having a alphanumeric data, something like ABC123. Okay, this is an alphanumeric field. This is obvious that we can't represent this ABC123 in terms of a number. We can't do that. So you can always, what is possible using the number functions or something. Let's say you have a number which is represented in the form of a character, and I want to convert this into a number, then I can do that. If you have a number, I mean, if you have an alphanumeric word which you want to convert into a number, that is not possible. This we cannot convert it and we can't load it. If you have a number which is represented in this format and you want to convert this into a number format or the decimal format or some other float number, then you can use a 2_decimal, 2_number functions with the help of a expression transformation. You can do that. But alphanumeric cannot be converted as a number. And a number cannot accept the alphanumeric.
So in that case, how to load that? An alphanumeric to integer, we can't load? Or
yeah, this is not possible. I mean, like, let's say you have a character ABC. How can we represent this in the number? It's only that ASCII. ASCII form is only the one which if you want to represent that in the number. So Informatica will not consider the characters as ASCII, or not even your database. Your database not even it considers as a ASCII. So it doesn't consider the ASCII values. You can't represent a character in the form of a number. So if you talk about your C language or C++,
so all the data types should match. That's what you are doing, right?
Yes, it's obviously
all the data
like
types between source and target should match.
Means like you can store only the data, if it is a character, you can store only the character data, or alphanumeric data, you can store it. If it is a number, then obviously I can't store a character value in that. So that way we cannot do that. So the data types you should design in such a way, when you are designing the data model, when you are designing the table, you should design in such a way similar kind of a data type should be created in the target table wherever you are storing. Let's say I'm storing something called as a customer phone number. Customer phone number is a numeric one. So I have to design that as a numeric. And I can't just expect a character value for a numeric field. So that is not possible. Okay. So yeah, so that's how we are going to use all these things. And any other questions, please, till this, whatever we have seen. Yeah.
And one more thing, Karthik, if I develop the program, ETL program,
okay,
can I call that program in any other ETL program? Is that possible?
Yeah, that's what is reusability does that allow. I mean, let's say you have something called as a mapping, and which you have actually developed in the shared folder. That is a shared folder. That means this becomes a public, and you want to reuse that in the other folders. Then you can reuse that. That is a mapping. Suppose, let's say you have created a mapping and you want to invoke that mapping multiple times using a multiple sessions. You can do that. So reusability here, reusability will occur across the folders, and at the same time the reusability can also be done by using the mapplex. So we'll see how the reusability can be done, but it is not that you cannot call one mapping from the other mapping, you cannot call one session from the other session. That way it is not possible. Just like your simple programming. Let's say I'm creating one Java method and I want to invoke that Java method from another Java program. That is possible, but here the reusability happens across the programs. I mean, one program whichever you have created, that can be reused without recreating it. It's just like an instance. We are going to show. I mean, we are going to see that, but we cannot think literally in terms of calling of the program from the another program. That way we cannot do that.
And one more thing, actually, can the source and target can be dynamic? Like if I have a fixed mapping, and so every time if I have any program in any language, there will be one code. So if you pass the input, so it will process it and it will give the output. So like that in Informatica, do you have any? So the source and target can be dynamic. Just we'll mention the source and target. So mapping everything, if there is a mapping which can be used to load across the 10 tables. So I have to develop 10 programs, right?
Yes. So here, structure of the source and structure of the target cannot be a dynamic. If that is a static, any kind of a source you can extract it and then load it. So if I understand your question correctly, so you have let's say assume that you have a 10 flat files which are having a same structure, and you can't just define a 10 programs to load the data into 10 target tables or whatever. So you want to create a generic program which can process the data from 10 flat files. So you can, if your structure is a static one, I mean, let's say always whenever I receive a flat file, my flat file will contain only the 10 fields in it. It will not contain, one day it will have a 10 fields, another day it will have 11 fields. Then it is not possible to define a program dynamically. So you can define
fields are same.
Yeah,
data can vary, but fields are same.
Yes, if you have a fields are same, yes, you can do that. You can make your program a dynamic one. With the help of a different sessions, you can make it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and the other thing, once we make the public, other user can see this folder. It is yes, Malik. Like once you make the folder as a public, and the user should have a permission to access that folder, then only he can see it, or he or someone can see it. If the folder is public, I mean, folder is you have created it as a public folder, but the user doesn't have a permission to access, then no way that he can access. He should have a permission to access, then only you can create the shortcuts and all those things. So that's how you use different client tools and different other things. So now I'm going to give you a background about how we are actually going to implement the hands-on labs, how we are going to implement the hands-on labs and then do it. Okay. So we know that ETL architecture will extract the data from OLTP system and then keep the data into the temporary area, something like a ODS or the staging area, and then load the data into the warehouse, right? So I'm going to, we have an environment where we have the OLTP system is already available. OLTP system is already available, and you're going to load the data into your target. So how are you going to load the data? So this is my OLTP system where I have all the tables which are available, all the OLTP tables. All the OLTP tables can be accessed by using a SDBU user in our case. So all the OLTP tables are available in the SDBU schema. So with the help of Informatica, what we are going to do is that we are going to extract the data from this OLTP system tables and then keep this into the ODS area, that is operational data store, which is a temporary area in the before loading the data in the warehouse. All the ODS tables are available in the TDBU schema. So we are going to extract the data from OLTP and then load the data into ODS. And from ODS, you're going to load the data into EDW. EDW is nothing but your dimension tables and the fact tables. We talked about the star schema, snowflake schema, and all those. So EDW and then the TDBU scheme. So now the OLTP system is already available. Now the job of an ETL developer is that he has to extract the data from the OLTP system and then load the data into EDW. Ultimately, they have to load the data into EDW. So before loading the data into EDW, so we are following the process of keeping the data into ODS because the data is required for me. I need the data in the ODS should be available. That's why I'm keeping all the data in the ODS and then loading the data into this. So you're going to use the OLTP tables. What are the different OLTP tables that are available? What are the different OLTP tables that are available in using this? So, and what are the different ODS tables? So by understanding the source structure, so in the source, we will have a different different tables like customer, invoice, product, vendor, and you have a few things called as a order, and you have other tables such as line item, vendor, all these things. And we are also going to fetch the data from, we are also going to extract the data from other type of sources such as a flat files, So we are going to extract the data from relational database, and at the same time we are also going to extract the data from flat files like order.txt, and you're going to extract the data from time.txt. There are few flat files which are available. We are going to extract the data from this OLTP system, and at the same time we are also going to extract the data from flat file. So these flat files. So first we'll extract the data from this OLTP system and then load the data into ODS area. So in the ODS you'll have a different tables. So in the real time, so concentrate here and then understand in the real time you have to design the structure of these tables using the data modeling process. So once the data modeling and once the structure of the tables is being created, then only you can start with a development process. Here for our hands-on, we are already designed the tables. That means the ODS tables and the EDW tables are already designed, and the structure of the tables is, we have already prepared the DDL scripts also. So we understand that we need to prepare the DDL scripts. We need to prepare the DDL scripts to prepare the DDL scripts to create the tables in the ODS and the EDW. So those scripts are also being created. And we are just going to create all those tables in the TDBU schema. So what and all are the tables that we are going to, what and all are the tables that we are going to create here, and what tables are available here in this. So this process, you need to do it as part of the data modeling process. As part of the data modeling, you have to design that. Once you design that, then only you can start with a development process. So I'm going to share this. I mean, we are going to copy all these materials into the we are going to share these materials, and along with this, we are also going to share, keep all these materials inside your remote box, where you can access all these materials directly from the remote box. Okay. So to do that, so if you look at the structure of the tables that we are going to see, if you look at the structure of the tables, so these are the list of tables that we are going to use for this project. So just consider this as a project where we are extracting the data from OLTP system. We are extracting the data from OLTP system with the help of Informatica. We are keeping all the data from OLTP system into ODS area, and from ODS area we are loading the data into your dimension tables and the fact tables. So this ODS tables and this dimension tables and the fact tables are already created. This this ODS tables and this dimension tables and fact tables are already created in your TDBU schema. Your TDBU schema is nothing but the target database schema, where these tables are already created with the help of a DDL scripts. So what are the DDL scripts that you have to prepare in case if you have to do it in the real time? What kind of DDL scripts that you have to prepare? So when you go here, there is a folder called as a TDBU, and inside that you have a folder here which is called as a TDBU. So these are all the tables which we have created, to understand what kind of tables we have created and all those things. One second. So it's taking it. So these are all the DDL scripts which are already being prepared, and then provided to you. So these tables will be already created in the target, when you are using it. So these are the target tables which will be created. All the ODS tables and the target tables and the dimension tables and the fact tables are available in the same schema. So the people who practice, you are going to practice the hands-on in the real time. You are going to practice the hands-on on the same server, because if everybody tries to load the data into TDBU schema, you'll get a lot of errors, because you're trying to practice the same hands-on labs, and everybody is trying to load the data into same table and the same schema. So you'll get a lot of errors. So for that reason, what we are planning is that we are going to create a separate schema for you, each one of you. For Brian, one schema; for Malik, one schema; for Sohail, for Syed, for Pramit. For every one of you, will create one schema for each, and same set of target tables will be available. So look here. So how we are going to practice the hands-on. So concentrate here what we are doing. What we are checking it. Let's say you have the data that is available in the OLTP, and you have some flat files which are available. Okay. So this is OLTP, and this is a flat file that you are going to do it. And now what we are going to do, we are going to create each one of you one schema. It is being already created for you, right? So for Brian, you have already one schema where it is already available. So whenever, suppose let's say Brian is actually working on the hands-on. Okay. So what he'll do, he'll read the data from the same source system, that is the same OLTP tables and same flat files. And when he is loading the data, is going to load the data into the target schema, that is your Brian. So this is your schema, and you are going to load it. So now in this schema, you don't have those tables, all those ODS tables, dimension tables, and the fact tables. So we are going to create it. Or if you would like to create, for a practice purpose, if you would like to create, you can create the target tables first before proceeding. So what are all the target tables? All these target tables, whatever you are seeing here, right? all the ODS tables, all the dimension tables and the fact tables, it will be created in the, so ODS tables will be created with the script, and the dim tables will be created using the script, and the fact tables will be created using this script. So once these tables are created, then you can start with a hands-on and then load into your own schema. So you truncate the tables there, you truncate the dimensions, you truncate the fact tables, you can play with it. Whatever you want, you do it in your own schema, Suppose, let's say if Syed is actually practicing the hands-on lab. So everyone will read the data from same source. Everyone will read the data from same source, but when they are loading the data, they'll load the data into the different target. That's it, because everybody will practice the same hands-on. So you should not have any issues. So Syed, when he's practicing, you'll extract the data from this and this, and you'll load it. So for everybody, you'll have a same kind of tables which will be available. Okay. Suppose, let's say you are practicing the hands-on here. So Syed. So for everyone, you'll have your own schema to practice the data, and you're going to load the data into your own schema. You're not going to load the data into TDBU or such. So you're going to load the data into your own schema. So for everyone, you'll have separate tables, and you can create your own tables. Since we have already provided the database credentials to you, you can create the tables by using the script which is available in the TDBU folder. So same folder structure will be available, same lab structure, whatever you have it here, what I am showing you, same TDBU will be available. So you need to run these two scripts, TDBU and SCD_DDL. So these two scripts, you should run it your own schema. So then only you can start with a hands-on. So if these tables are not available, in your schemas, then the target tables are not available, so you can't load the data. So likewise, everybody should create tables in their own schemas. And then start with a hands-on. Okay. So, and also we are going to dedicate one folder with your name. So when you log into on the remote box, when you log into the Informatica repository, you'll find the different folders. So we'll create a different folder for each one of you. So you can create so for Brian one folder, for Syed one folder, for Sohail one folder, for Malik one folder. We'll create one folder each one of you in the remote box. So you please create the programs only on your folder. And we are going to provide you the username and password to log in the remote box. I mean, which user ID and password you can use it to log into the remote. Log into the Informatica. So we are going to provide you the username and password and the folder name and the folder name which you have to work. We are going to provide that. All these details will send you through the mail, and your schema details which you have to use, and the folder details which you have to use, and all these things. So whatever is a dedicated folder which is assigned to you, please try and create the programs in the same folder. Do not try and access, anyway we'll try and restrict that through the permissions, and will not allow the other users to access it. We'll do that, and we'll send all these details to your mails. But when I am loading the data, I'll directly load the data into TDBU schema. Means you can use your own schemas to load the data. So that is how we are going to plan the hands-on labs. To do that, right? So now we have now you understand the structure of the tables. Okay, one second. Now you understand the different structure of the tables. So it is better that if every one of you go through the structure of the tables, what is being created, and what are the different columns which are available, what are the different, what is the data type of each column, and all those things, And once we design, this is during the design phase. During the project design phase, first we'll design the tables, and then the scripts. We'll create all the tables in the scripts. Now your target database is ready. I mean, your target database is ready, but you don't have a data in the target database. So your target data warehousing tables are ready. Data warehousing tables are ready, but there is no data. So who is going to load the data? With the help of Informatica ETL programs, we are going to load the data. And once we create the tables, then we need to prepare one more data mapping sheet. There is something called as a data mapping sheet, which in the real time you have to prepare during the design phase. During the design phase, you have to prepare it. That is called as a data mapping sheet. So what does it will tell you? So ultimately your mapping, whatever the mapping that you're developing, that will extract the data from source and then load into the target. So this data mapping sheet will contain the details about the source columns, details about the target columns, and details about the transformation details. So how does a data mapping sheet looks like, or the source to target column mapping sheet looks like? So you can go to this folder. There is a XLS called as a data mapping sheet. So this data mapping sheet you have to prepare as a developer. You have to prepare during the design phase. During the design phase, you have to prepare. Let's say I have a mapping which I'm going to develop, that is called as a m_ods employee, and you're extracting the data from employee table, and let's say you're loading the data into ods_employee table. So you need to first prepare the source to target column mapping sheet. This source to target column mapping sheet should be prepared. What kind of transformation you're going to make, which column from the source is going to be used as a which column in the, which table in the which column in the target. So this source to target column mapping sheet should be done before starting with the development process. Before starting with the development process, you need to do this. So if you are not, this is done during the design phase. So this designing of column fields and everything is already done for all the mappings, whatever you are going to develop using, whatever the mappings that you are going to develop in this hands-on or for this project. Already the data mapping sheet is being designed. So you can just go through this data mapping sheet and those DDL scripts, what is being shared it with you, and then this. And apart from this, you also need to prepare a design document which will talk about the details about your mapping and everything. So how does a technical design document looks like? So to understand the template of the technical design document, there is a document which is already there, something called as a sales and marketing ETL project. So how the technical design document looks like. So you need to prepare, as a developer, you need to prepare the technical design document. We are giving you the sample document, how it looks like. So you can just go through that and then understand how the technical design document and what kind of technical details you have to keep in this. So if you look at the technical design document, whatever you have, so that will consist of all the mapping details and the flow of the data, how many tables you have created, new tables you have created, how many target tables you have created, and which schema you have created, all those things. So conceptual data flow and what is the mapping and which transformation you have used, all those details will be kept in. So you can just go through all these DDL scripts and the technical design document and the data mapping sheet and everything. We'll copy all these things into this, and you can just let us know whatever the questions that you have. Yeah, somebody has a question here. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yeah, Prashant, go ahead.
Hi, Karthik. I want to know what is schema.
What is schema? Okay, very good. So a schema is nothing but user. So let's say you have, I heard that like, yeah, you can mute yourself. I'll just explain you what is a schema. Okay. So the thing is in Oracle, let's say the data is being, one database can consist of multiple schemas. And you might have heard about the different schemas like HR and then the Scott and then the different OE or the different other things. A schema is something that which will consist of different database objects. So HR schema can contain the different tables, views, and it will have indexes, different other database objects. So a schema is nothing but a group of database objects. Group of database object is called as a schema. So it can consist of tables, views, indexes, sequences, all the other database objects. In the Oracle, one database can consist of multiple schemas. So HR is one schema, Scott is one schema, OE is one schema. In terms of Oracle database, schema and the user both are same. Schema and the user both are same. When you say HR user, HR is the user or HR is the schema. When you say Scott is the user, Scott is a user or Scott is a schema. A schema is nothing but which will consist of a group of database objects is called as a schema here. Got it? Answered your question?
Program can I will also become the user.
Yes. There is a small disturbance coming from your end.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. So that's how you define the schema. Okay, so here whatever the schema that we are talking about, TDBU is one user which will consist of all these tables, to define the data. So now we are going to copy all those materials to the remote box by tomorrow, or maybe whenever you find a time. So just go through all the technical design document and the DDL scripts. Mainly you have to understand all these things. Okay, so mainly how we have prepared the DDL scripts, and the next thing is about the DDL scripts, and you need to also think about the data mapping sheet. So how we are going to use a data mapping sheet, and then the technical design document. So these three things you have to understand, and then we can start with a hands-on lab. So once you understand what and all of the target tables are available, so then we are going to use, start with a hands-on from tomorrow. Okay, so in case if you want me to send all these DDL scripts and the data mapping sheet and the design document, a design document, all these things, I'll probably send these things through the mail. So you just go through all of them and then understand the structure of the tables mainly. So structure of the tables and the data mapping sheet. Then we will go with, we'll go ahead with the hands-on from tomorrow. Okay, so we'll start with the actual hands-on. So now I think I've given you the idea how we are going to implement this project. This is just like a project only, we are driving the session. So we have a OLTP, we have a different flat files, how to load the data into ODS and then to data warehouse. That is what we are going to discuss as part of this course, entire course, which is like a project. So any questions, please go ahead now. Or any confusions also, please just make a highlight. Yes, Prashant, I'll just talk to you on the organizing part. I'll talk to you. And I'll talk to you. Yeah, Priyan,
Did you say to build the target first? How are we going to build the targets? And then do we look at the source?
Yes, by looking at the source. Yeah, so when we talked about the data modeling process, so the data modeling process, we talked about how to design the dimension tables, how to design the fact tables. By understanding your source structure and everything, you need to design which can be considered as a dimension and which can be considered as a fact table, and do you really require the ODS tables before loading the data into dimension and fact table, and how many of these dimension tables you have to design it as SCD type 2, SCD type 1, and what does a fact table contain, how many foreign keys it will have from the dimension tables, whether you want to design a star schema or the snowflake schema. All these things, whatever we understood in the dimensional modeling process, you have to put all those thoughts into this and then prepare this data warehouse data model.
So the source and the target, do they have to look the same? I mean, yours doesn't look the same.
No, it is in terms of name, it is not the same, but in terms of the structure of the tables, you can easily determine that it is almost the same. So let's say we take the employee table. I want to load the employee table into a ODS underscore employee table. So just look at this: employee ID, first name, last name, date height, and the first code. These are all the columns which are available in the source. And in the target, what are the columns I have? I have the employee ID, name, date height, and the type code. So which is nothing but here I'm concatenating the first name and last name and then loading it. So that is what the requirement is all about. So before even you proceed with the designing process, there is something called as a requirement document, business requirement document. So that business requirement document will be provided to you based on the business requirement document, and by talking to your business users, by talking to your customer and all those things, by understanding their requirements and by talking to your business analyst, then you are going to prepare all these data mapping sheet, data model, and the technical design document. Yes, Brian?
Okay, and you have a target table name and a target column name.
Yes.
What do you mean by the table name? Is that just the rows?
It's just a table name. I mean, let's say when you talk about the employee table, employee is one table.
Okay, yeah, that's good, yeah. Okay.
I mean, you're actually trying to represent there in which table you're loading the data.
Yes. I was a little confused. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, that's what you have to represent it. Yeah, Prashant. Like to answer your question about the fact tables and the dimension tables, we had in the data warehouse you can design the two types of tables. One is a dimension table, another is a fact table. The dimension table will store the character data, and the fact table will store the numeric data. Fact table will store the numeric data and how you use that. So these are the fact table and dimension tables in the elaborated mode, and you're going to see that through the videos, and I'm going to forward that videos to you right away on the by today. Okay, so just go through that, and probably we'll have a separate session to discuss about all the data modeling process for you.
Is the transformation rule as same as the constraint?
Yes, transformation rule, whatever you have, that is that what kind of transformation you want to perform. Let's say you want to transform the data from, so here you have a first name and last name which is available in the employees table, and the transformation that you have to do is that you have to concatenate the first name and last name and then load it into the target. So this is what the transformation, how you are going to transform the data. That rule you have to keep it here, or the business rule what you want to do.
What is that direct pull?
Yeah, direct pull means,
What is the?
Yeah, direct pull means you are not changing anything. Whatever the employee ID that is available in the source, you're directly loading into the target. You're not modifying it anything. Means you're just directly populating the employee ID as is from the source to the target, or the stripe pull you can call it. Means you're not transforming that column. That means you're not changing that column.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions please?
Will always be the target and source in one table, or depends?
Source and target, it is not that it's always one-to-one. It can also be designed in such a way, multiple source tables also can be loaded into a single target table. It depends based upon the design. So see here, there is a target table for other mapping, such as this ODS customer active, not this one, ODS line item. So if you see, I have three target tables here. One is an invoice, one is a line item, and another is a product. So invoice, line item, and product, three target tables together, you are loading into one single target table, that is a ODS line item. Okay, so three target tables can be combined and then loaded into single table. It depends, like when you are designing it, if you feel that when you combine all these three normalized tables or whatever, so into a single table, then you can keep it into a single table itself. Need not to be in the multiple tables. You can have it only one. It depends from scenario to scenario.
And what do you mean by nullable? Yes or no?
Nullable means it's like you can have a null value in that or no. So suppose let's say line item number cannot be nullable. That means you can't have a null value in the line item number column. If you say yes, that means discount column can be null. That means it can have a null value in the column. Yes or no constraints you have, right? Not null constraint and null constraint, the same thing. Got it? Yeah. So not null constraint and null constraint. Null means it can accept the null values. No means it cannot accept the null values. That's it. Okay. So any other questions from anyone? So I'm right away forwarding all these documents. Please just go through all of them and make yourself comfortable with all this design process and everything, because we may not cover more of the part of how you're actually going to again build those scripts and everything, because few of the things we already discussed in the your SQL classes and all those things. So I'm going to forward all those documents, and you're just going to do that. No, yeah. In Indian time, it is the same time, 7 o'clock. Whoever is actually joined from India, Prashant, I mean, to sum it up, it's every day at same time. We just don't get confused about the timings, what we have discussed starting of the class. It is at the same time, 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. every day.